of the Warcraft movie trailer, incredible esports action, and one mind-blowing announcement after another. We are back live from the Convention Center in Anaheim, California for BlizzCon 2015 Day 2. Welcome back, everybody.
Yeah.
Is in the house. We've got a huge chock-a-block schedule. We want to go over it right now so you can see what we've got coming up today. At 10:05, right after this, we have the Hearthstone Fireside Chat. After that, at 11:30, we're going to take a look at the World of Overwatch. 1 p.m. Pacific, World of Warcraft Legion. We're going to get into the game systems finally, which I'm very excited about. And then at 2:30 p.m., we're going to get a Q&A with the Warcraft team, the World of Warcraft team. 4 p.m., Heroes of the Storm, taking a deep dive into the battlegrounds. And then at 5 p.m., we are going to be joining live in progress the StarCraft 2 Global Finals. 6:30 is closing ceremony, and then of course at 7 we're going to see the closing concert by Linkin Park, which we're all super excited about. Crazy busy day one.
Oh yeah.
Michelle, what are you looking forward to in day 2?
Oh, Alex, there's so much stuff.
I know. Every time I ask this, I'm like,
I know, it's always just like, where do we begin? But I will say this. Every single year when I went to BlizzCon as a fan, the WoW Q&A panel was always my favorite. I was there for Red Shirt Guy. I saw that, and it was always the best. So, we're going to find out a lot about the lore.
Yep.
Of Legion.
Can't
wait to find out. And of course, also just the game systems.
Yeah.
Just knowing more about the game systems, knowing more about what we're doing with artifacts, with class halls, and even more so with PvP.
Yeah.
And all of that. So
big changes coming to PvP.
Yeah,
Very
big
cool.
changes. Prestige and everything. I can't wait to know more. So
Malik, what are you looking forward to?
Esports.
Yep.
Esports.
Yep.
Esports. We had a crazy day yesterday.
Yeah.
Braveheart, they had the upset. They ended up losing eventually, but we were going to have our first ever Heroes of the Storm World Champion. We're going to have 4 World Champions.
4 World Champions.
By the end of the day, 4 World Champions walk out of this building, and that to me is amazing. I'm looking forward to the esports. So many storylines are going to finally get their conclusion. We're going to see if Life can get that repeat that he's really been wanting.
He's on track, man.
He's looking strong. He's looking very strong.
He's going fast. He's aggressive.
He's aggressive. He's very aggressive. I'm going to talk more about it as I go around and get my recaps today.
Cool.
Yeah,
we'll be looking for it for sure.
Esports is my jam today. What about you, Alex?
I am so jazzed to see the game system panel for Legion.
Yes.
I want to see what they're going to do with the classes, how they're going to change them. Word on the street, they're going to touch almost every single class in the game. What does that even mean? You know what I mean?
Touch them.
They just touch them. It's going to be crazy. Well, we will be here all day. Lots of guests from the BlizzCon camp. But first, let's take a look at Hearthstone's Fireside Chat.
Welcome to the Hearthstone Fireside Chat.
Hey everyone, welcome to BlizzCon Day 2. My name is Mike Donay. I'm a senior game designer for Hearthstone. Super excited about the BlizzCon announcements we've had so far. Yesterday, Ben Brode and Eric Dodds talked to you about League of Explorers, the new adventure. It's got lots of really cool stuff in it. It's my favorite adventure so far. I'm excited to play it next week. Today we're going to talk to you about 2 different things. First, I'm going to go over the game design behind Fireside Tavern Brawls. And then we're going to talk to you about Q&A, so you guys can ask us questions either about League of Explorers, or you can ask us about Tavern Brawls, the stuff I talk about today, or you can ask us about anything else you want to talk about. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is our design goals for the Tavern Brawls. The first goal was to release it weekly, but getting to that goal was the interesting part. Right now, we release expansions or adventures every 4 months, and those are the right pace for a lot of our players. But for some of our really hardcore players, they consume all the content before 4 months has passed, and they want something more. So we decided we would add something more for those players to give them a bit of variety between the 4-month releases. Every month we have a ladder season ending or a new ladder season beginning, and every day we have quests, daily quests. So weekly felt like the right cadence. But at the same time, we're trying to figure out other design goals and other design specifics for Tavern Brawls. All this stuff sort of happens at the same time. Let me go through those. So our next goal, it's fun, but there's really a lot more to it than that. Fun is one of our core values at Blizzard. For this, it started with what kind of rewards do we want to give? We talked about doing a full ranked ladder with stars and a legend system just for Tavern Brawls. We talked about giving no rewards at all and let people just play because they enjoyed it. In the end, we realized we actually want people to try it out. We want to have just enough incentive so that each person logs in that week, tries out the Tavern Brawl. Hey, do you like this Tavern Brawl? Is it a good one for you? Is it like, maybe you really enjoy deck building and it's deck building, or whatever it is. Let you decide, and if you want to keep playing it, you do keep playing it, but when you do keep playing it, you play it because you're enjoying it. We'll come back to this too, and while we're figuring out this design goal, we also are working on the other design goals. So variety. When we talked about this weekly release, we weren't sure, like, would it be just one thing that sort of resets each week and people are involved in? And we talked about what that one thing would be, and we had a bunch of ideas. We had like 80 different ideas that we were all excited about. And we realized, well, we're not going to get that one thing right in our first try. So we decided after a while, like, hey, let's try a bunch of different things, iterate on those, improve them over time, get better tech, get better design, get community input and feedback. And that's when we realized Tavern Brawls are going to be different. Each week we'd try out something new, we'd improve on it, we'd try out more new things, we'd see what people like, and we keep it more fresh because there's so much variety. For Tavern Brawls, we had 3 main types so far. These categories were the build your own deck category, where your deck builders flourish, the pick your class, and when the brawl provides your entire deck and class for you. And I'm going to go through these different types and talk about this graph a little bit now. So in the build your own deck Tavern Brawls, these are really exciting for people who want to innovate, want to just try out ideas. It changes the value of all your cards. So in this example, the Great Summoners competition, this Tavern Brawl was whenever you play a spell, summon a minion of the same cost. So this was really cool because when you look at cards, you go through your collection and you actually go through each class and you look at each spell and you reevaluate under this new light. So like mind games, normally it's a spell that gives you a random minion, but in this it gives you 2 random minions. It becomes a lot better. At the same time though, your opponent's deck might not be playing any minions because of this nature of this competition, so it also gets worse. So you got to think about each spell differently. Mind Vision, a card that not many people play, is now a really good card because you don't have very many turn 1 plays when your deck is full of spells. Most spells are removal. But Mind Vision is a spell you're happy to play on turn 1. It gives you a card and it summons a 1-mana minion. So building your own deck is something that I really love, and this was a great type of Tavern Brawl for me. Pick your class Tavern Brawls. We learned a lot while we worked on these type of Tavern Brawls. Encounter at the Crossroads is a really popular one. That's the one where you pick your class and a completely random deck is provided for you. There's some algorithms built into that for like mana curve and spells versus minions, but it's basically a random deck of the class you picked. People really love this one because it's very replayable. You can use it to complete your class quests. It's different every time, and also because a lot of people didn't own all the cards, and they got to see cards and even legendaries that they didn't own and play with them. And they learned about cards. They thought, oh, I didn't realize this card was so fun. Now maybe I'll go build a deck around it. One of the first Pick Your Class Tavern Brawls we built was the Web Spinner Challenge. In this one, it was based on the old Naxxramas adventure. There's a Hunter class challenge there. That Hunter class challenge had you playing a deck with 30 web spinners, and you play as a hunter. And people really loved it. People gave us all this feedback. The feedback was, hey, I really want to play this against my friends. Can you guys make some kind of weird format where I can play these 30 web spinners against my friends? So it was natural to add that as one of our first Tavern Brawls. When we playtested it, though, we found out, hey, playing with a deck of 30 minions isn't quite as fun as normal Hearthstone. So we added spells. We tried adding 6 spells to the deck or 10 spells to the deck, and after a while we ended up adding 7 spells to that deck. The other lesson that we learned was it's more fun if you get some decision making. So we let you pick your class. You don't always have to play Hunter. Now the web spinners could be Mage or Hunter or Priest, and the spells would be different for each class, and you have to think about what spells would be really good depending on which class you're playing, and also like which hero power would be the most important. And when you win, you sometimes feel like, oh, it's because I made my decision about what class to play, and that feels good. So we used those lessons that we learned while we were playtesting that Tavern Brawl on other similar Pick Your Class Tavern Brawls. So all the Pick Your Class Tavern Brawls use the same sort of idea where you need to have some spells and some minions. You need to have the ability to make the decision of what class you play. The third type of Tavern Brawl, major category, was the pre-made deck. The very first one we released is a good example of this, Showdown at Blackrock Mountain. That's where you played either as Ragnaros or Nefarian, 2 big raid bosses that were really famous. The art really captures the idea of these 2 guys are battling against each other, but it's still kind of fun. People loved that because they got to play cards that were way more powerful than they'd seen before, cards that they can't normally play at all, they're not even in their collection, and you got to feel like a boss because your hero power was super powerful. People really enjoyed all of these, but it was different people. The nice thing about these different categories is they appeal to different people, right? And that's something that was really important for Tavern Brawls. Sometimes you'll love one week, you won't like the next one, and you can opt out. And that's why our reward system was so good, is because you just had to try it, get your 1 booster for winning a game, and then you move on. So I said there was 3 categories, but this week we released the first Tavern Brawl in a 4th category. It's the co-op Tavern Brawl, Unite Against Mechazod. People have already sent me tons of messages saying, hey Mike, this is awesome, this is the best Tavern Brawl ever. We love hearing that kind of feedback, or really any feedback. In this one, you play either as a priest or a paladin with a pre-made deck, and together, you work together to defeat this boss, Mechazod, who's in the middle of the board, and he switches sides each turn. And he's got 2 attack and 95 health, so he's really tough to beat, and he uses special abilities every turn between turns. This Tavern Brawl was probably the most interesting to make and the most difficult to make because we had to think up whole new ways to do co-op, right? The sort of obvious way to do this was put 2 people at the bottom of the board and 1 person at the top and re-engineer the entire game to work that way, and then re-engineer the entire UI to work that way. That wasn't really practical, at least not to do in the timeline that we wanted to do it. We wanted to give this to you guys as quickly as we could. So we thought a lot about what to do. We didn't really have a really good solution that we could release this year. And I was at my desk, smoke's coming out of my head. And I look over and Ben Brode has this big light bulb over his head. And I'm like, hey Ben, what's your idea? He's like, we should just put the minion on the board, right? And that was kind of a revelation. It was a big leap forward for us. And once we realized we could just put the minion on the board and have it move back and forth, we realized we could release it a lot sooner, and we get feedback on it, see if people like it. Turns out people do like it, so we should keep putting more iteration on it and find out what the next version of it is. So thank you for that, playing it and trying it out. And a lot of other people, one of our designers, Hayrim, put a lot of work into implementing it and making all the special powers and the voiceovers and animations and stuff like that. Our whole team worked on this Tavern Brawl. Here we can see the animation that was added to it. He wasn't really clear on the board, like, hey, what's that minion? Why is it special? It just looks like a normal minion. So we gave him taunt, and that made him more visible. We added legendary to him, and that seemed obvious, he is legendary. And then we added animation to make him sort of float a little bit. Let me show you that. So as you can see, it's really obvious that he's special and important now, and that really helped with the Tavern Brawl. And he does new animations. He plays new cards that other people don't have each turn. Not completely randomly, but fairly randomly. I'll get to those. Here you can see the board layout. One of the things we tried with this was putting him right in the middle of the board. And as you can see, there's not a lot of space to add a boss right to the middle of the board. We tried also removing the middle column so you couldn't have any minions in the middle of the board. And that looked really weird, and it was kind of a strange play experience. We talked about putting him in the top corner or on one side. Also didn't end up feeling right. Another thing that we talk about is what would the game be like if there was a player on each side, at the bottom corners and top side. And actually, it sounds pretty cool, but waiting 4 times as long for your turn is a pretty negative play experience. I don't mind waiting 75 seconds, but if I have to wait 4 minutes, that's quite a bit different. So anyways, we talked about a lot of things like this. We also had to design the Mecha decks. A lot of our designers iterated on these decks. We found that there were some really cool cards. At first, we were just building custom decks for it, and those custom decks got really crazy really fast. And we didn't really have everything in place to stop things like Equality, Consecrate, and Hunter's Mark. So we went to build pre-made decks. And we knew Millhouse Manastorm and Lorewalker Cho were really fun cards because we had tried them out in the custom decks. So we put them in, and it turns out they're really good tools, especially because they make you want to work with your partner. You want to talk to the other person playing with you and say, hey, now's a good time to play Millhouse Manastorm or Lorewalker Cho. And you learn over time when the right time is to play with that. So this is a really good Tavern Brawl for playing with one of your friends. Or if you play with someone randomly, add them as a friend, talk to them and say, hey, let's try again, but this time let's communicate. We added new powers to him. Every turn, he'll use one of these randomly, sort of randomly. We actually put in algorithms to make it not quite random, but mostly random because we wanted the play experience to be as good as we could. Overclock, for example, is not something that he could randomly choose every turn. Sometimes that would happen, and it's just a bad experience because he never does any attacks. And sometimes he would never overclock. So overclock is sort of normalized a bit. It's still fairly random, but it's more complicated. And these other ones sort of go off of his attack. It was really important that he gets more powerful as the game progresses, because as you get more mana crystals, you get more powerful, and we want you to eventually have a good chance of losing. The difficulty was something that we spent a lot of time honing in on. We wanted you to sometimes fail, or when you worked carefully and really understood all the cards, then you would more often succeed. And the overclock was a big part of that, and the abilities that are based off of his attack damage are a big part of that. And Lorewalker Cho was super fun, but if he just stayed in play for too long, the game quickly got out of hand. So after you each get one turn of using Lorewalker Cho, he'll use his Crazy Bunny Rabbit card and kill Lorewalker Cho. So we've released 21 Tavern Brawls so far. Not all unique, but about 18 of them are. Do you guys have a feeling for which Tavern Brawl you think is the most popular? This graph here shows games played of each of those weeks. Turns out Randomonium is the most popular so far. Randomonium was the one where you get a random deck, and each turn at the start of your turn, the cost is randomly made from between 1 and the normal cost of the card. That Tavern Brawl, I'll go back a slide so you can see the graph again. The blue line on the far side there, that's the Randomonium. So this card, this Tavern Brawl we think was popular because you get to play with cards you don't normally get to play with, and you get to feel more powerful because you're playing them in turn 1 or 2. Also, the games are pretty quick, and they're pretty swingy. Like, you could get ahead, and then suddenly your opponent gets a crazy combination of cards, really cheap, and they catch up, and they're ahead. And that was pretty fun. And then even though Even though randomonium was very popular, it doesn't mean we're going to change and just do randomonium every week. That would be boring. That would sort of defeat the whole purpose. So we're still going to do a big variety of tavern brawls and types of tavern brawls. So which tavern brawl is next? I'm sure you're all wondering. We have a lot of cool tavern brawls coming up. We even have some new types of tavern brawls coming up. About 5 months ago, these two guys battled, Nefarian and Ragnaros. And Ragnaros complained because Nefarian had an unfair advantage. So we took away one of Nefarian's mana crystals. He had too big of an early start. He was like steamrolling. Took away one of his mana crystals, so his start's going to be slower. He's going to come back next week. They're going to have a rematch. We'll see if it's more fair now. I think it will be, and I think Ragnaros will feel a little bit better about that. Hope you guys enjoy that. I'm going to talk a little bit about lessons we learned from Tavern Brawl that we applied to other card design from our sets. The Summoning Stone, it's a League of Explorers card. Whenever you cast a spell, summon a random minion of the same cost. We made that because the Great Summoner competition was so popular and so fun. That was the Tavern Brawl where the same rules applied. Whenever you played a spell, summon a minion of that cost. So the Summoning Stone's been a lot of fun. We had this as a Shaman card at first when we first designed it. And we thought, hey, that's a really fun card, and it's more fun if any class can use it. So we moved it to neutral. It's a little bit scary in neutral because rogues can give it stealth. And I'm sure you guys will explore that and find out if it's broken or not. I'm not really sure myself. Another Tavern Brawl that we learned a lot from. There's a Tavern Brawl that we tried to launch 2 weeks ago to show off the Discover mechanic. And we will be launching it in about 3 weeks from now. It's called Captain Blackheart's Treasure. And the way it works is each turn, instead of drawing a card, 3 cards are shown to you. You pick one of those 3 and it goes into your hand. So each turn you get a card for the situation. And sometimes you're going to want a card that's, you know, the right mana to play right away. And sometimes you're going to see Ragnaros and you'll be like, oh, I'll take this. I won't have exactly what I need right now, but it'll be good if the game goes long and I'll need Ragnaros. So it was a really fun mechanic. We play tested it a lot internally. It was one of our favorite brawls. And because we liked it so much, we came up with this new mechanic called Discover, which is in League of Explorers. And Discover is, I'll use Tomb Spider as an example. His battle cry is Discover a Beast. And when you play him, you look at 3 beasts that are either neutral or your class, and you pick one of those beasts to keep. And that's been really fun because you have to think about, hey, in this situation against my opponent who's playing this class and my hand is almost empty or whatever, what do I need? And those decisions have been really, really valuable. Dark Peddler is another great one. Dark Peddler is one of the most powerful cards in the set. He's Battlecry Discover, a 1-cost card, and he's a 2-mana 2/2. He's been really fun. You can get Warlock 1-mana cards, and there's a whole bunch of cool ones, or 1-mana neutral cards. So future Tavern Brawls. We talked a bit about the 4 categories we've released so far. We have ideas for more categories. A lot of those ideas are really crazy. Our tech keeps getting better, and our Tavern Brawls are going to keep getting better. Not only that, we're going to make the Tavern Brawls that you have seen better. We have Captain Blackheart's Treasure is one of my favorites, but actually the one on the following week, which is sort of based on and sort of improved version of it, is my actual favorite. I hope you guys like it. And we're going to make more categories. We're going to make better versions of co-op. We're going to make better versions of everything. And we're going to keep doing different things. Just because one Tavern Brawl is super popular doesn't mean we're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep things open. Something that we learned is after a new expansion comes out, you guys really like getting to play with those cards. So Tavern Brawls that give you a bunch of random cards, including cards from that expansion, are a pretty good way for people to see those cards. So we're going to do that some of the time, but not all the time. I already told you about this one. This one is the one that's coming out in about 3 weeks, Captain Blackheart's Treasure, where you get to choose a card every turn. And that's it. Thank you very much. We're going to open up Q&A now, and I'm going to bring 3 more guys on the stage with me. You guys can ask us about... You guys can ask us about anything Hearthstone related. We have Tavern Brawl, League of Explorers, or anything else. I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Pat Nagel. I'm a designer on Hearthstone. What do I do? Well, I work on Tavern Brawls. I also make a lot of coffee. I think I keep the team caffeinated. Probably make more pots of coffee than cups of coffee I drink, but mainly Tavern Brawls.
My name is Ben Brode, and I do a lot of content design, make cards and missions and adventures, and help with creative direction, stuff like that.
I'm Young Woo. I'm a producer in the team, and everybody, whenever I say that, they're like, so what would you say you do here? Basically, I work with the team to figure out what's most important for the game, and then help them execute. So I work on things like schedule and milestones, and prioritization.
He does all the worrying for us. I don't have to worry about anything because I know that Woo got it.
Young Woo is really important to me. He makes sure that everything just happens correctly. It's really nice to have him there.
Thank you.
Mike, what do you do?
Hi there. With the introduction of the new expansions and the adventures, like the Shredder and the new Discover, do you think Hearthstone is in a new direction for more RNG than a chess strategy game with the random cards that are now being introduced?
That's a great question. We think a lot about randomness in the game and how it's what makes it fun and what makes it less fun. And we've learned a lot with the different experiments we've done recently. We tried different types of cards. One of the cards that we like how the randomness feels is when you get some guaranteed value. For example, with Web Spinner, you're guaranteed to get a 1/1 minion for 1, so you feel like there's some certainty. And then you're guaranteed to get a random beast, but you still have to pay mana for that beast. So there's not a wild swing. If that beast had been in play for free, for example, that would have been kind of a crazy swing because you're not paying the mana difference. So we learned a lot about that. Shredder's another good example of that. You're guaranteed to get a 4/3 minion, so there's a lot of certainty. You're guaranteed to get a 2-drop, so there's some certainty there, and there's not a lot of swing. But once in a while, though, you'll get a crazy 2-drop. And that still keeps the game fresh, fun. You never know what to expect. We also like that you get to think about the odds of something. Like, you know, there's a small chance that you're going to get this minion or this minion, either from Web Spinner your opponent might have, or Shredder. And it makes you think more about those odds and do those extra calculations. The really top-level players are the best because they think about those things. And that's really important to us.
I have a lot of friends that just won't start playing Hearthstone because the game's been out, well, been in beta for a year and a half. Well, you know what I mean. What are the plans in the future for making the game more accessible from the beginning so that new players aren't dumped into the same pool with people that have every card?
You know, that's definitely a thing that we are pretty passionate about. I've been doing these videos to talk about some of the biggest issues with Hearthstone, and one of the biggest issues with Hearthstone today is that the game isn't as accessible as it was when we launched. And I think we need to do a lot of work to continue to keep it accessible. We've been talking a lot internally about what specifically we need to do to help solve those problems. We actually have a designer on the team who's dedicated to the new player experience, continues to play with new accounts. There is actually a separate matchmaking pool for brand new players to play against brand new players for some number of time, but that's not enough, and we need to do more work. We finally have some good ideas, I think, about what to do, but we'll be announcing those, I think, in the coming months. So we agree that that's a big problem.
And I know that it can be very intimidating for new players to jump into Hearthstone, but like Brode was saying, it's something that we really pay attention to. And if you look at things like Tavern Brawl, it's something, you know, especially on weeks where you have these pre-made decks, you can just jump in and have a good time. And just by winning one game every week, you get a free pack, and that accelerates your collection as well. So I would really encourage your friends to try it out. I think it can feel very intimidating, but once you get in there, and especially with modes like Tavern Brawl, like you can have a great time right away, and then slowly start building your collection.
Hey guys, I'm a big arena player, but I also like looking at my collection of golden cards that I've acquired over the years. So when can we expect to see like our collection of golden cards maybe make an appearance in arena?
So Broad's been asking for this feature forever. So he gives me a hard time because we have a hard time prioritizing that particular feature. So it's something, like we're really excited about doing a feature like that. Just the fact of the matter is there's just all these other awesome things that we're working on, and it's always not been making quite to that top tier list. But Broad always punches me about it, and I'm sure we'll get it done sooner than later. So thanks for your feedback.
Yeah, I love the golden cards. Let's get it done.
It's like, hey, at BlizzCon, they told us to do it. Come on.
Hi. First of all, thank you for creating Hearthstone, doing a great job with it. And of course, I love that Tavern Brawl is weekly. And I'm a big fan of the co-op Tavern Brawl right now to beat Megazod. But I was having a question on playing with your friends in Megazod is pretty easy. It's a good challenge, it's very healthy, and I love it. But when you queue randomly, you can't really work with your partner very well to say, hey, I have Millhouse, are you ready? Oh, I have Lore Walker, are you ready? So I was wondering, for future co-op Tavern Brawls, is it possible to try to have a chat just for your partner and just the co-op Tavern Brawls? Is that something on your mind?
It's a really good idea, yeah. We could maybe make it so that you can send a friend request at the beginning of the brawl instead of the end of the brawl, and if they accept it, you could talk to them. Yeah, we like that idea. I think it's a good feature to talk about in the future. One of the reasons that we made you get the booster pack even if you lose is because of that. Like, the communication is tough. So we said, hey, just give them the booster pack either way, and then they can play with friends and they can communicate with those. But good suggestion.
It's been one of the most awesome things that feedback we've been getting from this week's Tavern Brawl is how people actually send friend requests after end of the game, and they have actually like an awesome conversation. They become friends. So that's really important to us. So it's something we'll continue to look into.
Yeah, I read a thread where people were saying thank you and well played, and they meant it.
Yeah.
That was really nice.
Yeah. And they say sorry, and they mean it. You're like, oh my God, everybody's actually meaning what they say. It's awesome.
Hi, so I've been playing a lot of ladder recently, and everybody knows about Secret Paladin and especially Mysterious Challenger. And my question about that is, most cards that are 6 mana and have a powerful effect are normally 5/5 or something lower like that, like Sylvanas or something. So my question really is, for all the value that you get with Mysterious Challenger, why is it at such a high stat?
That's a great question. Mysterious Challenger deck and the card are very powerful. We realize that, of course. One of the things that we heard for a long time was, hey, I have all these Paladin secrets and they're terrible. I would never put them in a deck. And then suddenly we're hearing, hey, all these Paladin secrets are in my deck and they're too powerful. So we like to mix it up a bit. We like to make build-around cards that are really strong, especially if they encourage you to play with cards that are actually pretty weak. So I always remember when I lose to Mysterious Challenger, like, oh, he played turn 6 Mysterious Challenger and it was really strong and destroyed me. I don't really remember the games where he played 9 secrets on the first 9 turns. But those obviously happen too. They must. I don't remember them, but they must. So it's not all upside, but it is a very strong card, and it's something that we're watching closely and listening to the community. One thing I noticed is people were, like a month ago, people were all building decks to beat Patron Warrior. And now they're not building decks to focus on Patron Warrior, so they can build decks to focus on Mysterious Challenger or whatever else the next thing is. And I suspect that when they do that, they'll do pretty well, right? We haven't really had time to see that happen. I know that Tice brought 3 decks to Worlds that were very good against Mysterious Challenger, and he was rewarded for that. And I think that there are decks, well, I know that there are decks that are good against Mysterious Challenger because I have the data. But I think that players will find those decks very soon, too.
Hello. My question specifically asking about quests, and in the future, the expansion coming out Thursday. Forgot the name already.
The League of Explorers.
League of Explorers. There we go. Are we going to have new quests in the expansion, and is it going to change old ones that say like the 40 cast spell quest for 40 gold? Most new players will just build a deck with all one cost spells and just get the quest done. And the same thing, it's really counterproductive to lose a game on purpose just to complete a quest. And in addition to that, are other old quests going to be changed?
We always change and add quests. We just recently added a series of quests to the game, and we added win 5 games in Tavern Brawl. We added Spectator Friend. I think you can expect to continue to see more quests. I like the variety in quests too. The nice thing about play 40 spells is that you can make progress to it even if you are having a particularly bad losing streak. So some players really like being able to complete their quests without having to win. So I do like a variety, and I think we'll see more quests. In general, we try and split our strategy for releasing content from features so that we minimize risk as far as releasing a lot of stuff at one time. So for the League of Explorers, we're focusing exclusively on content, and then we have a couple more patches planned beyond that before the next thing that are more feature focused.
You should be a producer, Ben Broke.
Well met. I was able to play the demo earlier yesterday and loved it, and noticed that you added more Murloc cards and gave some love to the Murloc tribe. Are you giving any other love to other tribes with this latest adventure? And also, are you thinking about adding more tribes in the near future, i.e. zombies?
Murlocs is the focus. I mean, there's only a few cards that are Murlocs. There's 3 or 4 that would be potentially good in a Murloc deck in the adventure this time. But it's fun to take breaks and then come back strong. We have a mech card in the adventure, and there's a beast, at least one, a couple beasts. So we're adding a few, we're sprinkling them in, but usually we like to kind of have peaks and valleys, sort of. So we'll see in the next thing, we'll probably do some other stuff and maybe less of the things that we did in this one. So I don't think we should always do some kind of baseline amount of Murlocs, pirates, dragons, beasts, mechs, all that stuff. I think mixing it up is fun.
Hi, I love the mechs that were in Goblins vs. Gnomes, but since then there's barely been any new ones. So I was hoping, are we going to see possibly more mechs in the future? Maybe Warcraft's famous choppers so we can play card games on motorcycles?
That sounds awesome.
It's a great idea.
I mean, there's a new mech in the League of Explorers.
Yeah.
The neutral mechs, you can complete all your mech decks. We did add the Clockwork Knight in the Grand Tournament. Didn't see as much pickup as maybe we thought it might. We wanted to make sure there was a 5-cost mech that was pretty beefy stats-wise. But yeah, we'll continue exploring mechs. I'm not sure exactly for how long we're going to do that. Mechs are such a charming part of the Warcraft that they're really fun to explore. Again, we want to make sure there's peaks and valleys, so they may take a break for a little while and then come back. I don't know, but yeah, we love mechs.
One of the things we like to do is give people, if people like really want to make something, like they really want to make a dragon deck or a Murloc deck, we want to let them do that and succeed at it. That's why we keep improving those fantasies, like the dragon deck and the Murloc deck and the mech deck.
Hello, I have a question regarding the Fireside challenges. At the current moment, you can only play European versus European and USA/America versus America, and so on. So for example, now that I'm from Europe, I can't play with people that are from US. And at, for example, Blizzcon or Gamescom or the big conventions where Blizzard is actually active a lot, you can't do that. So is there any like ideas or thought about fixing that to the future so actually Europeans can challenge Americans and stuff? Only for the Fireside.
That's a really cool idea. Yeah, I mean, obviously, people getting together and playing with each other, that's a very important feature for us. And Fireside Gathering is something we're really passionate about. Fundamentally, when we designed the Hearthstone system, just the way the Blizzard infrastructure is set up, we unfortunately had to go down the pathway of splitting our player base by regions. Especially operational things like maintenance make it such that if everybody were in the same region, we would end up doing maintenance during some regions' peak gaming hours. But that's an interesting idea. Is there like a way to temporarily do something where a visiting player like you could play together with players from other regions? It's unfortunately the way we're set up. It's not a cheap feature for us to build. That's why it's not something we have been diving into, but that's a really good idea, and I understand where you're coming from.
Hi guys.
Greetings.
Hello.
Hello.
So my question is, have you guys ever considered doing a tournament mode where people, like a weekly tavern brawl, where people can play against each other for bigger prizes? For example, like if you want to join a tournament, you have to pay gold to join the tournament. So if people don't show up, they lose the gold. And if you win the weekly tournament, why not give them like extra card pack or extra gold packs? Or even have like a betting system where spectators can use gold during tournament modes to watch and then bet against other players.
That's a good question for you, I think.
Oh, you think so? I was going to say you had a great answer to it. Well, a nice thing about Tavern Brawls is that we can try things, and they can last for a week, and if it didn't work out, they're kind of done. But at the same time, yeah, we really like the idea of tournaments. One of the challenges is we're not quite sure when you say you want a tournament, what exactly does that mean? But again, back to Tavern Brawls, like in theory, we could try something, and if you like it, and as Mike was saying before, when we find something cool in a brawl, it might make it into the game. So good idea.
And we talk about tournament mode, just like what could it be, like all the time, like at the office, and even just like is it double elimination, single elimination, like do you want to be queued up, and let's say your game ends quickly, do you want to be waiting for the other players to finish up? Is that a good experience? And if you start kind of diving in and looking at the details and logistically how it would work, there are a lot of pros and cons to doing it in different ways. So, we understand this is one of the features that community has been asking for a while, but, we totally appreciate the community's patience. But if you actually dive in and think about tournament mode as a system, there's just a lot of different ways we can go about doing this. And one great thing about working for a company like Blizzard is, we have all these other, awesome game teams that are trying out different things, and we can learn from that as well. So, StarCraft 2 recently released a feature where it's where you can kind of facilitate that kind of tournament system in their clients. So we're going to be chatting with them and seeing how that's going for them and how the community responds to that feature, and maybe we can learn from something like that as well. By the way, if I'm talking too much, just
Hello.
let me know.
I really like the game, so thank you guys. My question is, are you working on any UI changes, quality of life changes? For example, I can see on some screens my dust or my gold, but not both. And if I'm on deck selection screen and I forget what my quest was, I have to back out, open up my quest log, get back in. And then also adding more deck slots.
I mean, the answer is yes to two of those things. I think that
your choice.
Pick two. We are working on deck slots, and I have been thinking about the quest thing because I agree, especially when I go into the arena and I have to choose between three heroes, and then I remember I have three quests. One was Warlock and Shaman, one was Priest and Mage, one was Warrior and Hunter, and I'm like, wait. which let me go back and check. I'm like, wait, what heroes did I have? Let me go back and so I want to put like a little exclamation point on the heroes that you have active quests for, so that you're like, oh, I can just play that, and I'll be working towards my quests. I think that would help. And the deck slots. The other thing, the gold and the dust thing, in general, we would try and minimize the amount of information that we're showing you, especially in the collection manager. There was, if you're interested in UI design, there's a great talk by Derek Sakamoto, our UI designer, and that he did at GDC last year, and he shows just an insane amount of evolution of the collection manager and where we've come from. It's really interesting. It kind of shows you where kind of some of the challenges that we had to overcome in UI complexity there. So yeah, we're going to do some more work on the collection manager, but it is probably the most challenging piece of Hearthstone to work in and improve.
Yeah, and I can't stress enough that you should really check out Derek's GDC talk, because sometimes we get these feedback from the community where it's like, how hard could it be to change a 9 to a 100? Why don't you just increase the number? And in some ways, if we just wanted to, if we didn't actually care about the overall experience and what we think is the right way to do this, I think there's a way to just jam this in. But that's why it's taking some time for us to figure this out. I think there's really the right way to do this. People like Derek and the team are definitely thinking a lot about it and making progress towards it. So.
But we did figure it out, and we're working on it now. So
yeah. I mean, we appreciate we appreciate the patience, I guess is what I'm saying. We're not just being lazy about this.
Good morning, gentlemen. Had a quick question about if you have any interesting stories about the origins of the card names. For example, like Huge Toad, maybe?
Sure, yeah.
Sure, yes. Huge Toad, it's funny you asked. I worked in quality assurance before I came to long ago before I came to the Hearthstone team. And there was another quality assurance analyst whose name was Hugh Todd, whose gamer name was Huge Toad. And the Huge Toads in Unguro Crater in World of Warcraft, I believe, are named after him. And so when we wanted to make a Huge Toad, we just called it that in memory of my good friend Hugh Todd, who's a writer now, I think, doing sci-fi. There you go.
Thank you.
It came up.
Hello, I was wondering about having the pack awards being expanded to other packs, like choosing the goblins or the newer expansion.
Yeah, you're talking about in the arena?
Well, in the arena or in the chest that you get for. The arena and doing the
tavern brawl.
You get the shield breaker chest and beyond.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we don't have any packs currently in the ranked rewards chest. And one of the reasons that we give out classic packs in some other places, like some quest rewards and the tavern brawls, is that we really wanted to inflate the pace at which new players get classic cards. It's been, there's a lot more content to collect for new players, and so we really wanted to get them up to speed a little quicker, so we've been adding more rewards to the game over time to kind of help bridge that gap. In the arena, we made a change recently to the rewards that you get in the arena to try and help make the game feel really free to play. It's really important that the game is free to play, so we wanted to let you get every type of pack there. I'm not sure that change was met with super positive feedback, so we're continuing to look at the reward scheme there and trying to improve it over time. But we're always looking at that mix and trying to get it right.
Yeah, but I mean the key. Sorry, I didn't hear what was said, but yeah, the key thing really is it's like we do a lot of these things because we're sensitive to new players being able to catch up. So Classic Pack is definitely worth more to newer players than maybe kind of more veteran players. And we get a lot of feedback about what are you doing to help these players catch up. These are types of things we're doing to help accelerate that process.
Hello there. So I feel as over time the meta has maybe sped up a little. I won't name any decks, hunters. with the release of Naxxramas a bit ago, you introduced Sludge Belcher, which, at least for a little bit, helps slow things down. I just wanted to know, how internally do you decide to add cards that speed up or slow things down?
We like to have a big variety of different types of cards in the sets. We don't pretend to know exactly how the meta is going to go. We just put out a bunch of different tools that push in different directions with the theory that, hey, if people are using all Face Hunter, then people will play more of the healing cards and the taunting cards. And if there's no Face Hunter being played, then they'll probably just play more of the big, end game finishers. And then once they're all playing all end game finishers, Face Hunter will come back and put them in their place. So that sort of cycle of different types of decks is really important, and because the very aggressive decks are sometimes cheaper to make, you'll see a lot of them. But I think having a variety of options and having them all be good is really important. So I think that right now we see, Control Warrior and Dragon Priest, which is a very slow controlled style deck. At the same time, we see aggressive Hunter or Warlock or whatever decks. And that mix of decks is pretty important.
Yeah, and I think there's also a perception in the community that playing, just concentrating on how fast your game is in ranked mode is like the best way to get ahead. And, we saw some recent community posts and I love it when the community kind of goes out there and gathers some data for themselves and then look at some facts. And, they're basically measuring the total amount of time needed to play what's considered, some of the fastest decks in the game, maybe a Face Hunter, and then some of the decks are considered like the slowest decks in the game, maybe a Control Warrior. And if you look at their average total game time, it's not like the difference between 3 minutes and 30 minutes like it can sometimes feel. The difference is more like the difference between maybe like 6 minutes to 8 minutes or somewhere in that range. And if you actually work out the math, especially with the bonus star system, and this is something we've been saying for a while, you really want to concentrate on a deck that has a good win rate. So, if you play Control Warrior, if you play Dragon Priest, and that's the deck that is right now good for the meta, and it's a deck you enjoy playing, obviously that's the most important thing, and the deck that you win most with, you should play that deck. That's the best way to get ahead. So, and that's how I like to play, and that's one thing I like to stress.
Thanks very much.
Hey guys, so it's something you've probably talked about, but I was wondering if you'd considered like an alternate ranked system that has formats kind of similar to Challenge Stone. It's something that I think a lot of people would really like as a ladder system, where like maybe each month, 1 month it could be only TGT and basic cards, because a lot of TGT cards don't see play in ladder and those kind of things.
Formats are interesting to us. Obviously, Tavern Brawl is a weekly changing format. It's possible we'll explore something like that. In general, there are some interesting solutions potentially to some of the problems we're having with having to either power creep or making expansions that don't wildly change the meta. Those kinds of things can help solve those issues. So yeah, we're talking a lot about those kinds of things, but I am not announcing anything right here.
I am sitting right next to you, Baird. Within striking distance.
Hey guys, my question uses the word format, but in a different way. So as Hearthstone grows and becomes more popular, what role, if any, do you think formats, in the sense of, standard, modern, legacy, to use Magic terms, will have a role to play in Hearthstone?
Yeah, I think those are interesting ways that other card games have solved the problems that we're facing right now. I mentioned that we are looking at ways to solve those problems. Those are some of the options. We are dealing in a digital-only space. We have a lot of unique options available to us, I think, to help solve some of these problems. We have been talking a lot about it. We're fine-tuning some of the details right now about our strategy going forward to help solve that type of stuff that you're referencing. And I don't think we're very far from announcing some of our plans there, but we are planning on doing some pretty radical stuff.
Hey
Hey guys, I know you've been doing a lot on expanding tribal synergy, and I know with TGT you guys brought out Inspire and Joust, and now you guys are doing Discover. And at least to me, it feels like there were a few cards in that, in Inspire and Joust, but not too many. And now you're going into a third keyword that you guys have expanded in the last 4 months. Are you guys planning on taking those older keywords that you brought out and expanding upon those? Because we haven't seen really much of that going on right now.
It's a great question. We talk a lot about these mechanics or keywords. Joust was not really a keyword, but it felt like it. The nice thing about making the decision after the set comes out, if we want to keep doing it, is we can see, was it fun? Do we think we could make it fun with different card designs, stuff like that? Did the community love it? And we have to make it a case-by-case decision, right? So as we keep putting out new mechanics, we'll be listening, we'll be trying new ideas in the same space. And if we like it, and if the community likes it, then we'll keep doing more of it.
Hey guys, my question is about the Reno Jackson card, and it has an interesting effect where if you only have one copy of each card in your deck, it'll heal your hero to full. And I was wondering if in the UI we would be able to see which cards are left in our deck, similar to a Hearth Arena mod.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I'll bring that up with our UI designer and see what kind of options we have there. But at this, there isn't any plan for that for the League of Explorers adventure yet.
Hi. So we get a lot of card backs now. Are we ever going to see like promotional cards again? Maybe alternate artwork cards?
You mean for Blizzcon?
For anything.
In general, alternate art scares me a little bit. We do it with the new heroes, so we certainly have explored that kind of space. But so much of what a card does is immediately identified by the art. So when I see a knife juggler, I know what it does. I mean, I don't have to read the card every time. And if we have a lot of cards that have just different art, you have kind of twice the learning to do when you see that art. You have to read it. Oh, I have read this card before. It's just different art. So I'm a little bit scared of that. I was a little scared about when we did New Heroes. It seems to have been worked out okay there. But yeah, promo cards are fun. We talk about it. Card backs have very little risk associated with people feeling like they're left out of something cool as far as gameplay goes, and so it's a little safer. And we make them awesome, so we enjoy those. But yeah, we'll keep talking about promo cards, sure.
This will be our last question.
Greetings, travelers.
Greetings.
Hi. So whenever you're designing new 2-drops or Murlocs or whatever the type of card, how do cards like Bane of Doom, Piloted Shredder, Murloc Knight kind of affect what you can do, affect what you can design?
I noticed that whenever we make a new 2-drop, people are like, oh, this makes Piloted Shredder better or worse. But there's so many 2-drops that we don't actually worry about that. We make the designs that we think are best for 2-mana minions. And if they're fun, they're fun. And if they come out of Shredder, well, that's fine. We don't worry about that. We do care about interactions between different cards a lot, but not to the sort of small level of, you know, this is a 1 in 30 chance of showing up. More of the like, here's a 2-card combo or a 3-card combo that will instantly win you the game. We look at those more.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming out to the panel. Hit us up on Twitter or Reddit if you have any other questions. We'll hit you back.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for attending the Hearthstone Fireside Chat. Up next,